Hi, I'm Selena from Annie's Bookstop of Worcester, and I'm here with Julia Kneeland, who has written a book called JIG Gets Lost. And I'm going to let her tell you all about it. Uh, Julia.
Yes, good morning.
So Julia, for readers unfamiliar with your work, how would you describe what you write?
Well, I've started my writing with writing for my grandchildren who are emerging readers. And I wanted to write a little story that would interest them, that would encourage them in their reading, to just pick up and do reading. So I started with Jig Gets Lost, and it's about a little dog. He looks a lot like a corgi, and he lives in the city, because we used to live near the city, near New York City. And so he goes on an adventure, and he sneaks out of the house and he goes and gets some food from some street vendors. Then he goes to a park and he gets lost. So his family does finally find him. And that was the first of the series. I've also written other books about Jig, and I'm excited about it. The next one that's being illustrated is Jig Goes to the Zoo, and he goes to the Bronx Zoo, and he has an adventure there. And that is based on a true story, not about a dog, but about my husband and myself going to the Bronx Zoo one time. And we went into the reptile house, and at that time they had branches overshadowing where you would walk. And my husband saw me walk under a branch, and he said, "Look up." And there was a big green iguana right over my head. It couldn't have been more than a foot over my head. So I screamed because it was amazing and I was startled. And so that I weaved that into part of the book of Jig Goes to the Zoo. So that was fun. That was fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what was the inspiration for Jig Gets Lost?
I think the inspiration was just to write an adventure book that would pique the interest of emerging readers. It's geared for children ages 6 through 8, although it can be read, it can be done as a read aloud for younger children, or it can be done for older children that like to read. Mm-hmm. And the inspiration, I think, just came when I was brainstorming just simple language, just simple language, just literally sitting down, writing out some words that were simple. I don't know how else to describe it. It kind of came together that way.
Why a dog? Why Jig?
I don't know. I guess I do love dogs. We have a dog. He's not small though. I think well, one thing I will mention, my illustrator, Rachel Budd. She's wonderful. She's one of my illustrators. And she actually had a picture that she had done for a friend. And I saw that picture and I wanted that to be my jig. And she got permission for me to use that from the person she did the picture for.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
So what kind of research went into writing your book?
Not a whole lot of research went into writing about Jig, but I also wrote an illustrated biography about Thomas Hooker, who is the founder of Connecticut. And I work at a library at the university, Eastern University and Eastern Connecticut University, State University. And I did a lot of research. I researched books, I read books, I bought some books, I did research online as well. And there was some information from the state of Connecticut because he was the founder of Connecticut. So I was able to do that.
So what was your favorite research story? Was it that?
Well, the favorite one was I did not realize that when I was doing the research that he was part of the trial for Anne Hutchinson, who was accused of heresy, because she taught the Bible and they didn't like the way, the clergy didn't like her teaching independent of the church. And so that was interesting. I did some research about that.
Wow, very interesting.
Yes.
So, what were the biggest challenges that you had in writing and putting out Jig Gets Lost?
I think the biggest challenge was I'm not an artist, so waiting and, seeing how that was all going, how my illustrators were going to work with my words to make it a story with pictures. And I have to say they did a wonderful job. They did, I was really excited when I saw it all pulled together. And what she did was she did it in my illustrator did the pictures in watercolor, and she made, quite a large size for me. And then the printer took those and printed it and put it in book form.
Uh-huh.
So I had to have a formatter because I
Okay.
couldn't do that by myself.
Right. Okay. So what else can we expect? You just told us a few of the things. Is there anything else we can expect from you in the near future?
Yes, my next one, as I said, is Jig Goes to the Zoo, which I'm excited about. He also goes to a museum in the city. And that's based on, I got my inspiration from listening to Pictures at an Exhibition, which is a musical piece. It's a classical piece, but it's about an artist who gives pictures to a musician, a composer, and he composes all these different pictures to go along with the music. And so I did that when Jig goes to the museum. So he sees a gnome, he sees the Great Gate of Kiev, and pictures of children playing in a park in Paris. And so that's kind of the experience that Jig has when he goes and visits the museum.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So now I have some questions about you as a writer. What's your favorite part of being a writer?
I think I've always enjoyed writing. When I thought about this a little bit. When I was younger, much younger, I I used to gather the neighborhood kids, and we would put on plays, and I would write them, and I would act in them sometimes and direct them. And so I grew up enjoying the creativity of using words to make something come alive. And that really was exciting for me. And so, yeah.
Okay. What do you consider the most challenging part of the writing process, and how do you overcome that?
I think the challenging part for me was especially when I wrote Thomas Hooker, I had to rewrite many, many times because I wrote it initially and that didn't take too long. But then when I realized I wanted it for 5th and 6th grade children, in school, I had to work on my language, and that was hard. I had to come up with a language that was on their level. And so I did a lot of rewriting for that because it was a researched piece. So that I think was challenging. The other part of it is because I'm not an artist, I have to be patient and wait for my illustrators to finish their illustrating so I can see what it looks like, how it's going to all come together.
And that must be really tough.
Yeah, it is. It is. I envy people who can draw and write their own because they have kind of that flow and it just keeps going. But I have to say, on a positive note, I have two wonderful illustrators. They are both teachers, art teachers. One teaches at the academy right in Woodstock, the Woodstock Academy, and the other one is teaching in Eastford in the elementary school. And they're busy. They're very busy people, but I would not choose any differently. They're both very, very good. And they're different art types. So JIG has a very different look than Thomas Hooker. The Thomas Hooker is in ink. It's in, just in ink, whereas the JIG book is in color. So the Thomas Hooker book will be in black and white.
Okay. So what has been your favorite adventure during your writing career?
I think my favorite part, I have not done a lot of book signings, but I've done a few. I think my favorite part is being out there and meeting people and talking about the writing, and they get excited. I have a pet, a stuffed animal that looks just like JIG, a big stuffed animal, and the kids get a kick out of him and they enjoy that. But I've really enjoyed meeting the people that I have met at these signing events.
Okay.
They're interesting, and they're interested in, well, maybe I'd like to write a book, and that's fun.
And you will be doing a book signing for us October 23rd.
October 23rd at noon.
Right.
I had it written in a different spot. I'm sorry.
Right. Okay. So what is the greatest lesson you've learned thus far in your writing career?
I think the biggest lesson is to keep going. Just the perseverance. You have an idea, a creative idea, and you get it down and you just keep going and you persevere and you push through until you can get to the goal, which is getting it published. For me, it was getting it published.
And do you have any other piece of advice that you would have that you'd want to share with other writers?
That it's very exciting to see a finished product. When my book came from the publishers here and I opened it up, it was very exciting. It was thrilling to see the ideas in a book form, all published, and the font was all done, all those decisions that you have to make along the way, and it all pulled together. That was really cool.
So do you have any advice about making those decisions?
I was fortunate because I'm not a formatter. So when I did my self-publishing and there was a lot of details, I worked with someone that helped me with my formatting. And if that's what I would advise, I would find someone to help you with that part of it. If you're not familiar with all the measurements and all the criteria that goes into the self-publishing.
Okay.
I would get a recommendation and go with a formatter to help you.
Are there any groups, clubs, or organizations that you would recommend to other writers that have helped you in your career?
Yes. I have been a member for quite a while. I'm a retired teacher now, but when I was teaching beforehand, and I still am a member of the Yukon Teachers as Writers. And that was a group of teachers that got together and we enjoyed writing, or some of them were English teachers. And at that time, I was teaching writing to my students, my 5th grade students. So we would get together and write. And a lot of times there would be a topic to choose to write about, or we could write about anything we wanted, and we would share and we would get feedback. And that was really very, very helpful.
Mhm.
Another group that I'm associated with is the Sutton Writers Group, and that's in Massachusetts. And another friend recommended them to me. And that's also helpful because you can get feedback. So the feedback helps tremendously, because sometimes, you think this idea of whatever you're writing is just so clear and so apparent that it's just wonderful, but then you need somebody to give you an objective viewpoint and say, well, you could do this, or, this part wasn't as clear to me.
Mhm. It's funny though. You can just look on the internet, just Google anything, and you can find a group of some kind.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can. I would encourage writers to do that.
Right. Okay, now I have questions about you as a person. What is one thing that most people don't realize about you?
That's a hard question. I did read that question. I think probably, even though I am outgoing and enjoy people, I have the personality like that. When it comes to my work, it's hard to accept, I don't want to say criticism, but sometimes the feedback might not be as positive as I like. In other words, when I first was gathering my ideas and getting them down, especially for Thomas Hooker, I was really excited about it, but it was the writing was too formal for the audience that I wanted. And so I really had to accept, okay, look at this is, 12th grade level reading, and you want it for 5th grade. So, that was a little challenging and a little harder to take,
But it's very important.
Yes,
It really is.
absolutely. You need it. You need the feedback.
Oh. Yeah, so we are having a thunderstorm here.
Yeah, we were this morning. We were too.
Okay, now what is or are your passions when you're not writing, and how do you make time for the for your hobbies and things that you love?
We have 4 wonderful grandchildren, 3 little girls and 1 little boy. The oldest is 8, the youngest is about 15 months. And so I enjoy having them over, and I especially enjoy cooking. And my granddaughters and I do a lot of cooking, which is a lot of fun. But the other very positive outcome from the writing is that both my grandson and my granddaughter have written JIG books. They've written sequels to my books.
That helps.
Yeah. They've written one, JIG Goes to the Circus, and another one, JIG Meets Joe, which is another dog that he meets along the way. So yeah, that's cool. That's very cool.
That's very cool. You know that you're a success when children start writing their own books.
Right. And that's important to me.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
important. I want to encourage writers.
That's great.
Yes.
So how do you make time for those things?
It's not easy. Usually when I write, I like to write early in the morning. I'm not a late night person, but I do get up early. And if I can start my day with writing, it's good, because I do enjoy writing. The other thing is I do, as I mentioned, I work at a library at the State University. And sometimes I'm able to do some research. When it's quiet, I can do a little research. And I'm actually finishing up 2 other pieces. One is about the singing schools that were in colonial times. And then the other one is the African Americans during the Revolutionary War. And so those are 2 things that I'm working on now. And the singing schools I have written previously about, and they are schools that took place during colonial times. The singing in the churches was terrible because they didn't have instruments way back. And so the music got really poor, and the clergy decided they wanted to start some singing schools. So they would have itinerant music teachers come in and teach people how to sing. And that's one area that I'm working on.
Wow. Okay. So what does your writing space look like? And what do you need to have around you while you're writing and editing?
A lot of times I do write using my laptop, and I do enjoy that, but I'm a rereader. I go back always to the beginning and I see the flow. I try to figure out where it is I'm trying to go with this. So I do handwrite also. So sometimes what I do is a combination. I'll do some of the writing on the laptop, print it off, pull it, from my printer and look at it. And then I'll make some adjustments right on, do my editing right on the printed page.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a combination.
So
really a combination.
So where do you write?
I write right in my kitchen, right where we are, right at my kitchen table. Nothing fancy. Nothing fancy.
So what do you need to have around you? Do you need like for food or drink?
Yeah, I'm a tea drinker, so always I have my tea going, and I listen to classical music. I listen to NPR regularly, and when that's not on, I'm playing classical music because in the old days I used to be a music teacher. And then I converted and I got cross-endorsed into regular classroom teaching.
Okay.
So I have a passion for the music too.
Okay. And you had mentioned that you have a dog.
Oh, yes.
So
he's a rescue.
Does your dog help you or hinder you with your writing?
He helps me. He keeps me company and he keeps me focused, and he's a good boy. His name is Ishi.
Ishi.
Ishi. He's a good dog. Yeah, I love him. Love him.
Good.
Yeah.
And how important has the New England setting been to your writing?
That has been important, especially for my Thomas Hooker piece. And one of my goals is he was the founder of Connecticut. And one of my goals is to go and visit the statue. There's a statue of him right in Hartford, which I don't live that far from. So I'm going to take one of my illustrators with me who's doing the Thomas Hooker and take some pictures and maybe include that. And when I was teaching, I taught social studies, and we would do some on the Connecticut colony. And I noticed there weren't a lot of books about Thomas Hooker. And so I decided that would be a good topic to write about. Just do an illustrated biography about Thomas Hooker. Mm-hmm. And he had an interesting life. And, I've learned a lot.
Is that your dog I hear in the background?
I think it's thunder. I think you hear thunder here. No, he's sitting quietly.
Okay. So I just have 2 more questions for you.
Sure.
Where can people find your work, aside from Annie's Bookstop of Worcester, of course? And as I do in every single video, I plug Annie's Bookstop of Worcester.
Absolutely.
And you can get Julia's book at Annie's. And you can get it by ordering it by sending email to orders@anniesbooksworcester.com, or you can call us at 508-796-5613. And where else can people get your book?
They can get it right on Amazon. Right on Amazon. Just JIG Gets Lost, Julia Kneeland.
Okay.
And they can order it right there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how can we follow your work and share your awesomeness?
Oh, well, I'm going to continue writing, and I have a website, and it is juliakneeland.net. Just my name.net, and that's my website, and I update it, and there's links to the book. And once the other 2 books become live, I will have those live on that website. Also, they can email me at jsknee@yahoo.com, and I'll be glad to answer any questions or give any information that might be helpful.
Okay.
To them.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, and we will be seeing you at the bookstore.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that.
At your book signing.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Julia.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.
You too.